Hey, how's it going? How's life? My name is Sophia. Welcome back to my channel. So for today's video, I'm going to be doing my August wrap up. Now, August was one of my weaker reading months, I must say, in terms of quantity. I only read three books in the month of August. All of them were good reads. I enjoyed every single book I read in the month of August, so that's nice. But yeah, the slump, I'll just probably be in a reading slump for the rest of eternity. It's fine. Everything's fine. But yeah, so without further ado, let's get into the books I read in the month of August. So the very first book I read was Jade War. Yeah. Was Jade War by Fonda Lee. Now, in this story, you are following the Call family, which is a crime lord family type situation, and you get to follow their beef, their drama with the No Peak clan, which is a competing gang. The way the magic system operates within this world is that there is bioenergetic jade, which gives superpowers, if you will, to the wearer. And the No Peak and the Mountain clan are basically competing for resources, and it's a lot of action, a lot of political maneuvering, a lot going on. I really enjoyed it. It was so soul crushing, and I enjoyed every single second of it. I love the characters, I love the world building, I love the political machinations, I love the action. Everything you could possibly wish for, this book has. I will say the very first book, the politics and the world building were very self-contained, and in the second book you get to see it expanded on a more global scale, and I really enjoyed the world building in that regard. Another thing I will say is that the Espenians, which is another nation in this story, it reminded me a lot of the US. I don't know if the Espenians are like an allegory for Western civilization, but they reminded me of the US in the sense that it's all about military power for them, and they will do anything to strengthen their military strength. And so it was interesting seeing parallels between those. I also really enjoyed how themes of immigration were dealt with in this book. I won't get into specifics because I feel like that would be a spoiler, but I thought Fonda Lee did a really good job exploring what it's like being in a new country and culture shock and things like that. If I had to give one critique just for the sake of giving it a critique, I would say the time jumps. In general, I'm not the biggest fan of time jumps, and while there are time jumps in Jade City, it wasn't done as frequently or for as long periods of time as it is in Jade War. I will say Fonda Lee did a really great job with the time jumps. It's just something that personally I'm not the biggest fan of. I ended up giving this a 5 out of 5 stars. I highly recommend picking it up. It's one of my favorite books of this year so far, and I am super excited for Jade Legacy to come out next year. The next book I read in the month of August is Ray Bear by Jordan E. Fueco. Oh, this was so good. Okay. In this story, you are following our main character, Tarisai, who is born and raised in isolation by a mother figure known as the Lady. One day, Tarisai gets a chance to leave isolation and join a competition to become part of the Emperor's Council. But she is ordered to kill the Emperor's son, or the Crown Prince, whatever you want to call him. She's ordered to kill him once she gains his trust and his love. And the story is basically following Teresa as she struggles with her mission. This is such a good book. Like, if I didn't know that Jordan E. Fueko, that this was her debut novel, I would have never guessed it. Oh my goodness. The culture in this story is so rich, and the writing style is so atmospheric in the sense that I felt like I was in the story. I really enjoyed the writing style. I thought it was very beautifully done, and there's something about Jordan E. Fueco's writing style that's very atmospheric and just draws you into the story, and I really loved it. I really loved the world building in this story. I thought that the world was so unique, and I loved seeing multiple cultures, and I loved making parallels between cultures in this book as well as cultures in our real world. I felt that the world was very lush, very vibrant, very interesting, and I think that was one of the strongest aspects of this story in my personal opinion. In terms of characters, I thought the characters were so well done, so well developed, and I loved and adored every single character individually, but I especially loved them together as a whole. I loved their relationship. There is a found family aspect, and it's really strong in this story. So if you like found family stories, I would definitely recommend picking this one up. One small critique I do have, and it's not really a big critique. I can understand why the story was structured in this particular way, but the critique is that the Emperor's Council is supposed to be made up of 12 people, and in this story you're following the relationships of just 4. So you're following Teresa and her relationship with 3 other people, and so personally, I would have loved to see more of the other characters, more of the other council members. But other than that, I really enjoyed it. Would highly recommend picking it up. I gave this a 4 out of 5 stars. Oh, and also before I forget, I will say trigger warning for emotional child abuse. So the final book I read in the month of August is A Song of Wraiths and Ruins by Roseanne Brown. What can I say? Yeah, I read this for our Chaos Rising book club pick of the month. If you are interested in checking out the live show, I will leave it linked down below. Now, I really enjoyed this story. This is another debut fantasy story, and just like Raybearer, if you didn't tell me that this was a debut novel, I would have never guessed. It is so well written. I will say in the beginning was a little slow to me. I wasn't captivated from page 1, but around the halfway mark, the story really started to pick up, and I found myself obsessed. The world building was pretty amazing to me. I really enjoyed seeing how different cultures within this story interacted with one another. I also enjoyed the magic system and the mythology that's weaved into this world. I thought that was well done. I thought the world building was done beautifully. It was done in very subtle ways. It was never beaten. You were never beaten over the head with the world building, and I really appreciated that. In terms of characters, I really adored the characters. Karina is a cinnamon roll that could kill you, and Malik is just a cinnamon roll, a completely pure cinnamon roll. I thought that the characters were well developed, their motivations made sense, and both of them, because this is a dual perspective story, so in terms of their voices, I found that their voices was very unique. The plot was interesting, especially towards like the end. The plot picked up, and I was just like, oh my gosh. It was very explosive, especially towards the end, and I really enjoyed that. There were a lot of themes of xenophobia, discrimination, immigration, and I thought Roseanne Brown did it really well. She also tackles chronic illness. Our character Karina suffers from chronic headaches. I also really liked the way she discussed panic attacks. And so our character Malik, he suffers from panic attacks, and I thought that was done and handled with a lot of care. So if you're looking for that kind of representation, I highly recommend picking this up. The romance isn't quite what I expected it to be. It's a enemies to lovers, and the way the romance in this story ends is very unexpected. And I personally, I appreciated it. I know the others, Rue and Tammie, they weren't the biggest fan of the romance, but personally I loved it. And I like the way, I like how it ended, because it's very open-ended, you know? But yeah, I gave this a 4.5 out of 5 stars. I rounded it up to 5 stars on Goodreads. If you're interested in picking it up, highly recommend. Those were all the books I read in the month of August. It wasn't a bad reading month in terms of quality, just kind of a crappy reading month in terms of quantity. But what can I say? What can I do? I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope to see you soon with another video, and until then, I will see you soon. Bye!